So you're using a Mac and you need to erase a hard drive or a memory stick. You open your disk utility and you're offered a list of confusing formats. Which one do you choose? In this video, I'll help you decide which format is best for you. When you need to erase a hard drive or a memory stick, your Mac has a really useful tool called the disk utility. You can find it by going into your Finder, opening Applications, then opening the Utilities folder, and double-clicking on Disk Utility. I'm going to plug in a memory stick that needs to be erased. The memory stick appears on the left-hand side of Disk Utility, and if I click on it, I can see that its capacity is about 34 gigabytes, and its format is something called NTFS. To erase the memory stick, I just need to click on the Erase button up at the top. Here, we can give the drive a new name if we like, and then we have to choose a format. And there's our problem. There's more than one way to erase a disk. Your storage can be formatted in different ways depending on what you plan to use it for. That's because over the years, computers have been designed by several competing companies, and these companies have never agreed on a single standard way of storing data on drives. So let's look at the options, and don't worry if your Mac has more options than you see here, because I will be covering them all. First, we have two options that both start with macOS Extended. As you might have guessed, macOS Extended has for a long time been the standard file system for Macs. If you're formatting the main hard drive on your Mac, you normally want to use macOS Extended. This format won't work on Windows computers though. If you're setting up an external hard drive or a memory stick and you're certain it's only ever going to be used on a Mac, then you're best formatting it with macOS Extended. One scenario where it's essential to use macOS Extended is if you're setting up a Time Machine backup drive, because Time Machine won't work with any other format. So if you've decided to use macOS Extended, you just need to know the difference between journaled and case-sensitive journaled. Well, the case-sensitive version means if you store a file with a name that has just lowercase letters, it's different to a file with the same name that has uppercase and lowercase letters in the name. If you think you'll ever need to store two files like this in the same place on your drive, then you should choose case-sensitive. This would be an unusual thing to do though, and I recommend you just go for the first option, macOS Extended Journaled. And this is also the version that Apple recommend. Next, let's look at an option that isn't on my list but might be on yours, APFS. In fact, if I cancel this screen and go over to my main drive, you can see it's formatted with APFS. APFS is a new file system introduced by Apple in 2017. You'll find it on some Macs with High Sierra installed. You can't use APFS to format hard drives, it only worked with SSDs. It's more reliable and more efficient than macOS Extended, so if you're given the option of APFS, you should probably use it. Just bear in mind that you won't be able to use a drive formatted in APFS on any Mac older than High Sierra or on any Windows computer. And just like when we looked at macOS Extended, APFS gives you the choice of having case sensitive, and you probably want to choose the version that's not case sensitive. Now, if we go back to my memory stick, let's have a look at these remaining formats in a slightly different order. At the bottom of the list, we can see the Windows NT file system, or NTFS. It's greyed out, meaning we can't use it to format our drive, but it's also ticked, which means it happens to be the format that's currently on my memory stick. As you might have guessed, NTFS is a standard file format on Windows, so I guess I must have formatted this drive using my Windows computer. You can use your Mac to read and open files saved on your memory stick with the NTFS format, but your Mac won't let you save your changes to the drive and it won't let you store new files there. NTFS is considered a read-only format on the Mac, and we can't use the disk utility to format a drive in this way. So if we want to be able to use our drive on both Windows and Mac, we need a format that works on both, and that's where the final two formats come in. MS-DOS FAT is an older standard that will work on almost any computer or device. If you're struggling to get an old drive working, then FAT is your best chance to get it working on most computers. The downside to FAT is it's an older format now, and it can't be used for storing anything larger than 4 GB, which rules out it being used for movies or other large files. And with FAT, you can only make partition sizes of up to 2 terabytes, and there are drives out there that store 4 terabytes or 8 terabytes now. ExFAT is a newer format, and it's an improvement on FAT that removes the 4 GB limitation. It works on Windows computers with Windows Vista or newer, Macs with macOS 10.6.5 or newer, and most modern versions of Linux. So, unless you need to work with Windows XP or a very old Mac, ExFAT is going to be the best format to use on an external drive. Now, if you want to change the format of a drive that already contains all your files, you're going to need to copy those files over to another drive before you start, because formatting a drive erases everything on the drive. Once you've erased the drive with the new format, you should be able to copy all your files back onto it. So, just to summarise, if you're going to be formatting the main drive on your Mac and it's an SSD, you should choose APFS. But if you're formatting the hard drive on a Mac, then it's macOS Extended Journaled. And if you're going to format an external drive that's going to be used exclusively with Macs or as a Time Machine backup drive, you should also use macOS Extended Journaled. But if you're erasing an external drive that's going to be used on Mac, Windows or any other modern device, then you should use ExFAT. Let me know in the comments below which format you went for, and if this video helped you, please give it the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more tutorials like this from me in future, please hit the red subscribe button. Thanks for watching.